At the turn of the 20th century, American culture was entrenched in music. With new inventions such as the radio and the phonograph, people were able to listen to music anywhere at any time. These inventions pushed musicianship further into the limelight than it had ever been before, as it didn't need to be performed live. Music could be heard from across the country, allowing stronger intermingling of America's different cultures. As genres, jazz and blues slowly developed from black musicians due to their use of what are known as blue notes. Blue notes are believed to have originated within African American spirituals under slavery. They consist of a slight tonal shift of performed notes to vary on the music's sound, giving it a more unique feel. Jazz and the blues were originally developed as a fringe off of a very popular style known as ragtime, often played for dancing. Due to jazz being a style originated from black culture, it would stand to reason that the very first recorded jazz piece would be performed by black musicians. However, this is quite counter to the actual archival evidence that we have. The very first recorded jazz piece is Livery Stable Blues, a song performed and written by the original Dixieland Jazz Band, which is composed of all white musicians. This outcome can be explained through a statement by black reporter Levi Hubert in his essay The Whites Invade Harlem. He details a phenomena in which growing fascination with jazz and black culture in general led to more and more people interacting with it, which could then lead to someone creating music based on what they heard. As such, it is likely that the original Dixieland Jazz Band plagiarized their music from black live performers. This is also not an unheard of occurrence, especially in the 20th century, with artists such as Elvis Presley known for rebranding black culture. Black musicians also faced much more difficult circumstances because of the Supreme Court's 1896 decision in Plessy v. Ferguson. This case declared that black and white Americans were separate but equal, which in practice was quite the opposite. This act stretched into the musical sphere, leading to black musicians being unable to be marketed to white audiences, greatly reducing their ability to make music. Due to these difficulties, black jazz musicians took two different approaches. The first was getting involved with local minstrel shows. A minstrel show is a caricatured depiction of black Americans, painting them as unintelligent, lazy, and cowardly. However, playing in these shows made them money, so they didn't really have a choice if they wanted to perform on a consistent wage. The other was specifically a choice made by black composers, in which they wrote jazz music for white musicians to perform. This allowed them to market to larger audiences, as music companies saw no problem with them writing, because they could still market the white performer as part of the music. A significant example of this is a performer known as Marion Harris, whom many black composers sought out due to her ability to convincingly sing jazz and blues. As the 20th century went on, black Americans continued their attempts to achieve legal equality. In this era, the world wars were seen as a mechanic for possibly increasing their standings in American society. As black Americans went off to battle, musicians followed. Lieutenant James Reese Europe ran the 396th Regiment Band, which served in Europe during World War I. The 369th acted as a group for cultural exchange, introducing jazz and blues to an international audience. Meanwhile, at home, black composers created songs praising African American soldiers for their contributions to the war effort. The aforementioned Marion Harris was selected for some of these performances.
Boy, dressed up in that uniform, you fills my heart with joy. You ain't born for moping, boy, you sure can laugh.
Following the war, there was a surge in the pursuit for equal rights. Black Americans had fought alongside white soldiers and enjoyed increased rights overseas. Once they returned, they were expected to return to the status quo after the hearty effort they put in for their nation. Around the same time, Louis Armstrong was becoming a household name. Eventually growing so popular, he was synonymous with the genre of jazz. He was one of the very first cases of a black icon in American society, where he was appreciated as a standalone artist. His growth into this position showed a shifting of national perspectives on segregation.
Mama, don't mind. I've got...
By 1957, the Supreme Court had ruled against segregation. However, many states still fought back against the decision. In Little Rock, Arkansas, a group of black children attempted to integrate their local school, in which the Arkansas National Guard was called by their governor, Orville Faubus, to bar them out. After witnessing this story, Armstrong came out to very publicly criticize both Faubus and the sitting president Eisenhower, calling them an uneducated plowboy and two-faced, respectively. This was one of the first times a famous black man who wasn't directly associated with the civil rights movement came out so clearly about the issue. As such, newspapers and colleagues alike jumped on the issue, predicting his fall from grace after the controversy. However, this fall from grace never happened. Armstrong remained in the public eye up until his death in 1971, and saw no noticeable change in his audience. This was an even more unique situation. Not only had he been one of the first to open up about his opinions in his field, but he was the first to be able to freely discuss his opinion without any significant repercussions. Jazz and blues, in the context of the American experience, allowed for black Americans to find a voice even when they weren't part of the public eye. As the genre grew, they emerged as a public fascination, and artists like Louis Armstrong were incredibly famous throughout the country. Even now, music has been a key place for black Americans to tell their stories through hip-hop, a style originated from jazz. Performers like Tupac, Kendrick Lamar, and Megan Thee Stallion have used their music as not only an art form, but also to tell the story and struggles of African Americans, freeing them from archival silence as they are able to take back the power and be their own historians. I think it is dangerous to discuss these issues as things of the past, as the fight is not over, and musicianship is one of the most profound and beautiful ways black culture has preserved itself amidst adversity.